Gamba Comedia Boys Meso abo anogara akafurika Nzebe dzabo dzinogara dzakafurika Zvese connected musharukwa Gamba kwevanogaya mari Meso abo anogara akafurika.
Right, 9 October 2023, and today I continue to cover the situation that is developing in Zimbabwe. There is a dire situation that is developing in our country ever since the disputed election, which was held in August this year. And specifically, everything has stopped in Zimbabwe. Nothing is moving. In fact, companies, individuals, young people, old people, everyone is now in limbo. No one knows what is happening. No one knows what is going to happen. And this is specifically true for businesses that have to deal with the government of Zimbabwe. It's a disaster that is unfolding in Zimbabwe. This weekend, it was reported that the Zimbabwe government is failing to pay contractors. So all the contractors that are working on government projects are not being paid. Most of them are losing equipment. They are removing the equipment from the sites. And it's becoming a very, very dire situation. The government of President Mnangagwa, after the elections, is not able to make things work. Things are not working, and everyone is just watching. There is nothing happening in the country. The economy is folding and drastically going down. And the issue that I'm going to handle here has got very, very serious long-term effects on the Zimbabwe government, especially given that the Zimbabwe government has got so many loans from China. So the loan that I'm going to be talking about today is the loan for Hwange 7 and 8. And this loan, it was taken by President Mnangagwa to increase capacity together as a special purpose vehicle fund with a company called Sino Hydro. So what happened is they then developed 7 and 8, and the capacity has increased. However, Hwange is unable to collect money from the customers who have used the electricity. They are also selling the electricity at below the price at which they make it. So they make the price, the electricity at around 16 US cents, and then they sell it for about 10 US cents. And this is a drastic loss of almost 50%. And this has resulted in Hwange being unable to service the loans, and therefore there is going to be a default. So the default has happened on the 1st of October. They failed to pay this loan. And if you look at the power blackouts in Zimbabwe, they have increased massively. There's been no improvement. I've been talking to guys in Harare right now, and electricity is going for hours and hours. You're talking here of more than 12 hours without power. And places like Kariba, the Kariba Dam, it's at less than half of capacity. There's no production there. And therefore, there is a massive, massive shortfall of electricity. However, on the other hand, South Africa has reduced, they've in fact suspended load shedding. There's no more load shedding. As you can see, you have not heard me complaining over the past month of any power cuts. South Africa have reduced load shedding. They've started importing power, even I think from Zimbabwe itself. Zimbabwe is desperately trying to offload electricity to people who can pay. And as you know, that no one in Zimbabwe right now can pay. There is a drastic situation in our country, and it needs a solution. President Mnangagwa needs to make a solution very, very quickly. If he leaves this situation like this, it is going to become a very, very big problem. You understand that the situation we have is because of the disputed election. No investor wants to come to our country. No investor wants to make long-term plans with Zimbabwe. No one knows what is going to happen after 3 months, after 6 months. It is a disaster that has been created due to the election dispute between President Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa. And the solution is simple. And I say this over and over and over again. There has to be dialogue between President Mnangagwa and Nelson Chamisa, resulting in some form of a power sharing agreement. There is no other way out of this. And I'll be talking more about other things that have happened. There are more sanctions that have been slapped on President Mnangagwa's government, more international funders are pulling out of Zimbabwe. Besides the investors, more international funders are pulling out of Zimbabwe. People who are helping in the villages, in the rural areas, they're pulling out. They cannot work under the current situation that is there under President Mnangagwa's government. So let's wrap this up. It's going to be very, very short. As I said, Wange 7 and 11 was expanded by President Mnangagwa. He opened up a few months back. I think that was around June. And it increased capacity by 600 megawatts, I'm sure. And this has obviously improved the supply, but people cannot pay. Companies cannot pay. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, Wange is owed close to 5 billion by customers, which is 200 billion Zimbabwe dollars. That's what they're owed. People can simply not pay. No one is making money under President Mnangagwa's government. President Mnangagwa's government, his biggest weakness is that people are not making money under his government. But I just want to conclude on that that note, that if people are not making money, President Mnangagwa's presidency is not serving the purpose for which people voted him for. He needs to make people make money. People need to make money, and that is the purpose of a presidency. Let's in fact look at what he said when this thing was opened. I would have wanted to show this so that you can understand what this is about. President Mnangagwa said the country is under sanctions. This is a way of busting sanctions. They are looking at China, but it's not a solution. The solution is somewhere else.
This was just plain when we did the groundbreaking. And I can't even remember where we were standing. Well, first and foremost, we are under sanctions. And we, as the Second Republic, we have not put our heads in the sand and said because there are sanctions, because the intention of those who put us under sanctions was that they wanted us to collapse. So we decided that we must look, one, into our own domestic resources for us to survive. Secondly, relate to our traditional friends, supporters.
Right. So this is the point that I wanted to make. President Mnangagwa keeps saying we're under sanctions. He keeps saying we're looking at our own resources. We're looking at our friends from the East. I think this is a terrible, terrible idea. What is happening in Zimbabwe needs action. It needs an immediate change of strategy. The current strategy of President Mnangagwa is not working. It's not working. He needs to make a drastic change. First and foremost, he needs to make the economy work. He needs to make production come up. He needs harmony in the country. He needs to deal with the electoral issues. We need to normalize relationships with everyone else. And this is where everything is. We are failing as Zimbabwe right here. I speak to people every day, and there's no one who's enjoying the situation that is in Zimbabwe. ZANU-PF people and CCC people alike. These dramas that the government of President Mnangagwa is occupied with are not assisting anybody. There is a need right now to deal with the situation so that the situation can normalize. Otherwise, the collapse is very, very close. Tomorrow, I'm going to show you what is happening in the banking sector under President Mnangagwa, the public banks, NASA. I will show you what is happening there. The same issues that we're having here in the power sector are happening there in the banking sector. Everything that President Mnangagwa is building is collapsing from underneath. There is nothing happening in the country right now, and everyone has to work together, especially with the President Mnangagwa, to make sure that this works. Let me quickly look at the comments before we close. And Tafadza says, I'm safe here. Yes, of course. Ndaona vanhu vatengeserwa kumaChina very soon. Yeah, if you pass by Rishavani, Tafadza, you will be disappointed. I don't know what these guys are digging, but as you drive past every road, you see these trenches that they're digging on the side of the roads. They are basically digging up the whole country, these guys. And nobody says there's no president in Zimbabwe at the moment. You know, I'm so sad about this statement because I think there is some truth in what you're saying. President Mnangagwa needs to step up here. We have a problem, and this problem needs to be solved. We cannot have the situation that is happening now in Zimbabwe, where people are just, nothing is moving. And this is a terrible thing. We need to have a solution to this. And the solution starts at home. It doesn't start everywhere else where he's trying to look. The South Africans, they meet President Mnangagwa, they shake hands with him, and then they go home. As I'm saying to you, there's no power cuts here. The economy of South Africa is in trouble, but it's normal. Things are normal here. They're normal. They're not the way things are in Zimbabwe. They've got problems with ESCOM, but they're managing them. In Zimbabwe, things are not being managed. They are defaulting to this debt to China. They've defaulted, in fact, on the 1st of October. They failed to pay because they just don't have the dollars. And the situation is across the country. They've stopped paying contractors. It's a mess right now, a big, big mess in Zimbabwe. So this needs a solution, and the solution needs people to step down a little bit and put away their pride and negotiate. They need to negotiate here, and they need to fight to stop fighting the CCC. The CCC is not the enemy. The enemy is poverty. The enemy is lack of money. The enemy is lack of jobs. This is the enemy. These are the things that they're fighting with the CCC. It's just a useless fight that they're having every day. Aston is asking about Nkoma, Job Scala. Job Scala extremely sick in hospital. Chamisa has approached SADC, and he wants Job Scala to be released. And we have a situation there also. That's what I'm talking about. President Mnangagwa needs to step up here. Over 430 days in jail. That's Job Scala. Some of these things serve no purpose, and we need to make sure that this works, because the economy is about to collapse. And I don't say this lightly. The economy of Zimbabwe is on the verge of collapse because of this kind of situation. A country like Zimbabwe cannot raise money anymore to repay a loan of 1.5 billion because no one can pay. The customers cannot pay because they're not making money. They pay you in dollars, the dollars can't pay. If you try to change those dollars on the street, that US dollar is going to hit 1:100,000 very, very soon. That is going to happen. And Mtuli Ngume knows it. That's why they're not doing it. If they try to pay back those debts and try to normalize things, that's why they're paying those little salaries that they're paying, as I said last week. It's a disaster that is unfolding in Zimbabwe, and it needs a solution. So I'll be back tomorrow. We unpack the financial statements at NASA, and I'll show you what is happening there. The Zimbabwe government and all the institutions owned by the Zimbabwe government in a crisis, and this needs to be solved as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching, and I'm sure Dr. Fedias Mtenere will update you on what happened today with the recalled CCC MPs. I'll have a chat with them today to find out more and talk to the guys in CCC and update you as to what is happening there. Those are the dramas that I was talking about. President Mnangagwa and his government focusing totally on the wrong things and not keeping the eyes on the ball. So let's talk tomorrow and enjoy your evening. Good night.
Kuno abo bano mamu wanna get it nice. Anno pura meso, anno pura tebe, anno kaya marigi. Kama kweto tikom, kweto tikom usasaire. Kama kwe ano kaya marigi. Kama kwe uyo, ano tara marigi.